Hi there, this is CS Professor Pam with Jumpstart Code, and our next topic that we are going to talk about is responsive design. That means we are going to learn about something called media queries. Now, the sort of reference that we are using in a lot of our lessons is this reference internetingishard.com. And if you go to the HTML and CSS section, we've gone through quite a few of these lessons already. We are here on responsive design. All right, now, what does responsive design mean? It means that your site should basically look nice on different sized screens, right? And so the main tool that you have to accomplish that is something called media queries. So media queries allow you to apply certain CSS rules only in certain situations. So we can have rules that apply to a smaller screen size. We usually do it based on screen size, or to a medium-sized screen size, or to a large screen size. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is understand a little bit about just how to do media queries with a really simple example. So I have a page. This document asks you to download some images, but I'm going to do it without the images. I'm going to show you a way to do this without the images. And so the first thing we want to do is just show how media queries work by having different colored backgrounds based on what the size screen is. So let me just put a title here. I'll just put an H1 here so we have something on our page. And I will set up a link to my CSS page. So we're going to have style.css. So let me create that file, right? And I always start my CSS files with this reset code: margin 0, padding of 0, and box sizing of border box. Just a good habit to get into, okay? Now, we are going to specify some different rules. And this is the syntax. Now, I don't want to talk about the screen part of it right now. So I'm only going to talk about this part, the width. So a media query is specified in your CSS file. It starts with the @ media. And then you can provide a condition, all right? So we can say, for example, we'll say max width of 400 pixels. So let's put this down here. These are going to be my media queries. So it starts with @ media, and then you give it some sort of a condition. So if I say, in parentheses, max width 400 pixels, it means that the CSS rules that I'm about to put inside of this section, you see there's curly brackets that define this section, will only apply when the screen size is up to 400 pixels. Right? So what I can say in here, now here's where I put a CSS rule. So if I say body, background color, pink, okay? So let me save all of this. Let me open up my page. All right, now you see you're not seeing a pink page right now. I just want to bring this out because my screen size is bigger. Now I'm going to inspect this page because there's some useful tools in here to help us when we're doing responsive design. So if we click here, you see we can actually specify, you can specify different devices here, but we're just going to leave it on responsive. And you'll see as I make this smaller, right, you see the size there, the dimensions 376 pixels. So all the way up to 400. You see when I get to 400, it's still got the pink background color. When it's over 400, it does not, because this media query applies to a screen width anything that is up to 400 pixels wide. All right, let's do one for our tablet size. So we can put two conditions in there. So we're going to do, I'm going to copy this. We're going to have another media rule here. So media, and then this rule says if the screen width is 401 pixels, a minimum of that, and a maximum. So it has to be inside of that range, inside of a range of 401 pixels to 960 pixels. Okay, let's do a specifier on the body. Background color, we'll give it a different color, right? Let's do aquamarine. Right, let's save it and see if that's working. So when I go over here, so look, I'm in that range, 500. So I'm seeing the blue. If I go down under 400, it's pink. If I get over 400, it's blue. If I get over, what is the max size I said was 960, right? So I think my screen is not quite big enough so that I can see that. Let me actually make this smaller. Here we go. So we should be able to, there you go. You see when I get over that size, we don't have any specifications for that. So we can add one more. We'll add one for over for the desktop. So in that case, I'm going to specify a minimum width, right? So this one is media. So in the case of anything that is 961 pixels or larger, because that's a minimum width, we are going to give a background color of yellow. All right, so now we should be able to see, and if I close my console off over here. All right, so we can see we've got yellow, we get smaller, we have blue, we get down under 400, we have pink. So my CSS, my page is doing different things, has different responses based on the actual size of the screen. Okay, so that was just a small example just to get us used to the idea of what media queries can allow you to do. All right, so what we want to do is talk about how to do a design. And you know, when you have, when people design a website, you have to design it to look differently on different size screens. When you have a larger space, then a lot of times you might want to have 2 or 3 columns in your layout. But as the space gets smaller, especially for mobile, you don't tend to want to do that. So we are going to mock up these designs here, okay? And again, there's some patterns that people tend to use. And what we're going to use is a fluid layout. So that means it stretches based on the space that's available. All right, so the mobile and the tablet versions we're going to build are going to be fluid. The desktop version is going to be a fixed width, because otherwise you need it to look good within a certain size. You can't necessarily size it for a big, huge screen, right? So we've got some breakpoints we're going to use. All right. That's what this is all talking about. Now let's get into what we're going to do. So typically when you do this, you need a strategy. And some people like to code the mobile version first and then make modifications to get to the tablet and the desktop. Some people like to code the desktop first and then they make modifications to go down. The point is you have to make a plan. You cannot work on all three of them at the same time. Okay? So what we're going to do to begin with, let's look at our design here. We have these sections. Header, we've got these features, sign up, and content, right? I am going to just make divs that represent all of these things. So to make this a little easier, I am going to copy this, although I'm going to change it a little bit because I am not going to use the images. And I'm going to pause this video and get this file set up and then show you what I've done. All right, so what I have set up are all of the divs to represent the different sections. So I have a div that represents my entire page, right? And actually, yeah, so there's the end of that one. Then I have a div that represents my menu. And notice I just have the words in there for right now. This is my header. This is going to be content. This is going to be the sign up. Then I've got feature 1, feature 2, feature 3. Now notice the classes that have been defined here. So all of these, I don't know if we've talked about this before, but we can have multiple classes on a div. So every single one of these has the class section. And then we have some specific classes here to differentiate the different content that we have, right? And again, this comes from the document over here, except that instead of using these images in here, I just put the words. Makes it a lot easier. Then I used this CSS. Let's look at the CSS. So my sections, have given them a width. Let me actually, I'm going to take this part off for the moment. Let's talk about how we get there. So the only thing that I want to do to start, I'm going to take this off, is give our sections some background color and give them some height, all right, some space. So let's just look at what we have with this. Right, so I've got all these different sections, right? Here's my menu, header, content, sign up, feature 1, feature 2, feature 3, okay? So I've just given them all some different background colors. All right, now, the approach that we're going to take is, if we look at this right now, you know, if we make it smaller, this looks like my mobile layout, basically, right? So we are going to start mobile first. But what we're going to do that is going to help prepare us for this is the page, we are going to apply display flex on the page with a wrap, which means that all of the child elements in the page are going to wrap based on the space available. Then in a section, we're giving each section a width of 100% right now. Let's go look at the HTML. So sections are inside of page. So 100% means each one of these sections takes up the entire width of the page. It's a percentage of the parent, okay? And we're going to make each one of these sections a display flex and justify the content in the center, align the items in the center. Let's save this. You see the text there? The content, which is in here now, is aligned vertically and horizontally, right? If I take these things out, we're going to see, let's take them out so we can see the difference before I make them flex. Right? The words are stuck up here in the corner. That's the content right now. That's the children in there. So if I make this display flex and align the content vertically and horizontally, then we end up with something that looks like this. And, you know, as I make the page smaller, this pretty much looks like, let's go look at what we wanted the mobile layout to look like, right? That's what our mobile layout is supposed to look like. Let's look again, side by side. So we've got the menu, got the header, here's my content, my sign up, and my features down here. So we could very easily go fill in those boxes, those divs, with the content that we actually want to put in there, right? If it's images, if it's H1s, if it's paragraphs, whatever it is, you can go and fill it in. So this way we get to focus on the layout first, right? So no media queries required. That's why this is called mobile first. And that flex wrap property is going to make it easier for the tablet and desktop. We're going to see in a second. So we'll be able to just tweak what we need for tablet and desktop. All right. So we're going to stop this video. Make sure that you do have just your basic page here with all your different sections and your basic styling that just applies some color and some height to some of these elements. And then we are going to go on and talk about the tablet in the next video.